Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. So today's video we are going to be trying out, demonstrating and doing comparison swatches for the new Nudes, Super Duper Nudes collection from Charlotte Tilbury. I have the face palette and I also have all of the lip colours apart from one. But this collection looked absolutely stunning. As soon as I saw it, I wanted to get my grubby little paws all over it. You know, I live for Charlotte Tilbury, my absolute favourite brand, and I absolutely live for a face palette. So this was ticking a lot of my boxes. So in this collection, there is one universal face palette with sculpting and highlighting shades. There are 4 matte lipsticks and 1 kissing lipstick. This is the lipstick I didn't manage to get because it was released earlier than the others and had sold out. I waited to order everything at one time and that turned out to be a mistake and I missed out and it's gone. I hope it does come back at some point because I know lots and lots of people that's the one top item that they wanted from this collection. I know her kissing formula is so popular, so fingers crossed that that one is going to be coming back, but so far it has not appeared. There is also an eyeshadow palette which I didn't pick up because it's a re-promote. It was previously released and we've seen it already, so that was re-promoted. And there was also a double-ended eyeliner which has a black on one end and a cream on the other, which I don't think it's a re-promote. I think it's said that it is new, but Charlotte does already have a double-ended liner like this in her collection, so I didn't pick that one up either. To look at both the front of this packaging, it's gorgeous packaging, as well as the embossing on the inside, it reminds me of the Nudegasm palette that was released previously and was very hit and miss. It was either people loved it or hated it because the formula was quite different and a lot of people struggled with it. It was too tightly pressed for people to pick up enough unless you used the specific brushes and techniques, so it was a little tricky. This is the first time I remember Charlotte releasing a face palette like this in only 1 shade, which is interesting because usually we do see 2 shades from her. So I do really wish there had been 2 or even 3 different shades of this. But in her online tutorial, she did say that this is a universal palette and it's designed, although to me, I hear the word universal and I always just think, you know, I have skeptical thoughts is what I'm saying. I just don't believe that really there's anything makeup wise, or at least cheek products, complexion products, that can be universal because our skin tones are so different and how products look on us and work on us are so different depending on our skin tone that I really truly don't see how complexion products can be universal. However, in her tutorial, Charlotte did say that this is designed to be used in different ways. So if you're fairer, for example, and these 2 shades might be too deep for you, you could use these on the eye. And if you have deeper skin and possibly these 2 shades are too light for you, you'd use those on the eye. And if you have a sort of medium to tan complexion, you could probably use these 3 shades and this one might only be usable on the eye for you. So depending on your skin tone, Charlotte expects you to kind of use it differently, and there's 2 different sort of explanations of how to use this depending on if you're light to medium or medium to deep. So that's interesting, and for that reason I'm going to use this on both my eyes and my cheeks today and see how it works in both of those locations. I'm also going to be doing comparison swatches at the end. I'll compare it to the bronzer, the highlight that I have, as well as the previous face palettes that I have to compare it to, and we're going to be doing a ton of lipstick comparisons because you guys know I have a lot of Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks. So without further ado, let's try these products out and get some initial thoughts. So to start off, I'm going to go into the lighter kind of sculpting shade and I'm going to apply that to my crease. This looks very light in the pan, and also it's the one that's swatched like there was nothing there, but actually it is Definitely giving me a little bit of definition in the crease, which is nice. Just going to give me something to kind of blend into. You can see that there. It's definitely giving me a bit of contour to the eye shape. Obviously Charlotte says that this can be used on the eyes, so let's see. Just going to change up my brush. That was the Rephr 16. I'm now going to use the Rephr 27 and use the deeper shade. This definitely picked up a bit more pigment there. Yeah, and that's given me for sure a bit more colour. Lovely big mirror in these palettes. You can absolutely use this to apply. It's going to give you a nice good view. I do like these types of palettes where you use the same shades on eyes and cheeks, because it just makes everything look really natural and all works together beautifully. Absolutely no issues using these sculpt shades on the eyes for me. Definitely a way to use it if they're either too light or too deep for you, as Charlotte said. And then I'm going to use the highlight shade on a MAC 242 and just sort of give that a bit of a wash of colour. I'm not trying to do too much on my eyes, because obviously this palette on the eyes is not exactly going to achieve, you know, a full crazy dramatic eye look. It's that typical Charlotte Tilbury aesthetic where it's, you know, just a bit of glow and some dimension to the eye. Perfect for every day, on the go, travel, that kind of eye look what we're going for today. Could always use a finger, just kind of give the centre a bit more shine. Very pretty. This is the kind of makeup I do whenever I travel. This is exactly, I love taking these types of palettes from Charlotte Tilbury. I have been travelling a lot with the previous one because it's just so quick and easy, and this is what I do, you know, if I'm away or travelling. This is like absolutely all I will do, so that's good with me. This is all I look for when I'm in a rush. Perfect, beautiful, simple. So now, because these are like more so sculpting shades, I guess, this one is just going to be too light. I think that would be a mistake for me to use it because it's going to pull really grey on me. So I'm just going to stick to this one on the cheeks, and I'm using my Rephr 04. These definitely look more like sculpting shades than bronzing shades. So I'm going to try and keep this more like a contour, in that contour zone, as opposed to bringing it too much, using it too much like a bronzer, because they do look really quite cool. Don't want to look too grey. That's lovely. The brush is picking up, you know, a lovely, really nice amount. It's applying very naturally as well, you know, not too much pigment, can build it up nicely. Nice and soft and subtle. The finish is lovely. Yeah, I mean, this is quite subtle on me, so it's definitely, the other shade is going to be too light for me to use on the face, but it did give me a nice sort of base to the eye, so I can use it that way. And then I'm going to use the light highlight. This looks like it should be fine for me on my skin tone. Let's see. Yeah, that's perfect. Quite pigmented. I actually went in this time with a light hand because I don't want it to be too much. I don't want to leave a cast, but yeah, that suits my skin tone really nicely actually. Really nice. It's so smooth, that highlight. Really beautiful. Really smooth. Melting into the skin, that Charlotte Tilbury glow. That's just right up my street. Gorgeous. I'm going to pop a bit of that same colour in my inner corners. It's definitely not like too much blinding highlight. It's a nice glow. Brow arch as well, lovely. That's what we like. A little bit of glow to the brow bone. And now the bit I'm most excited about, which is this gorgeous looking shade. Brush picks up a fair bit of colour. This is the Fusion series Sonia G. Do you know what? That's really subtle. Really subtle. But beautiful. Wow, that's so pretty. That is pretty. Wow, oh, I love that blush. I knew I was going to love this blush. Very subtle on me. I'm actually now like really swirling it. There's just really no kick up with these formulas. It doesn't like make a powdery mess. The brush isn't dispensing too much, but this is a really light fluffy brush at the same time. Oh, that blush is flipping it. Wow, that's so pretty. Oh, that's really taken this palette from like a like to a love for me, that blush. Wow, that's gorgeous. I don't feel like I'm sort of missing anything as far as like, you know, because I didn't use I didn't use bronzer so much. It was more of a like a sculpt as opposed to like how I normally bronze, but I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I just love this. It's such a Charlotte Tilbury palette, this. It's literally that exact look. Let me whack on some of her mascara and we'll be back. I've actually fully turned my ring light off, so I've just got some soft boxes here so you can kind of see it in a more low, natural-ish lighting. I think these cheeks are looking gorgeous, to be honest. Here's these little peepers, nice and close up. Obviously very, very soft and understated, the eye look with this palette. Just barely there, very glowy, gorgeous, typical Charlotte Tilbury aesthetic, this palette on eyes and cheeks. So let's move on to these lippies. Let's start off with, let me just look, I want to try and get them in order. I've bought her Iconic Nude down. These look very similar, some of these. It'd be interesting to see how they swatch. So the lightest shade we have is Cover Star. Let's see if this one can be worn without a liner. Probably not. On me, it's maybe a little light. I'd definitely say this is too light for me to be worn on its own. I would definitely want a liner with this one. As you can see, it's quite light. Next, we have Catwalking. This is a bit of me, this shade. This is like a gorgeous peachy nude. Perfect everyday shade. This is like, I'm going to be interested to compare this to Nude Romance because it's giving me that same vibe but in like matte format. Next we have Supermodel. You can see how these get progressively deeper. This is much more berry toned. I can't wait to do comparison swatches because each of these like reminding me of another shade. This one I think, I don't know, is it Glowing Gem that's reminding me of? Possibly. This is not my type of shade. It's definitely on the pinkier spectrum, and you guys know I'm more of a peachy, brown, neutral nudes than I am like these berries. But still a very nice, very wearable, Your Lips But Better kind of shade. Just not my personal favourite. And lastly, Super Fabulous. Deeper again. But a bit more of a neutral brown. This one is very 90s, I feel like. See, this one, there's nothing I can think of that I have in my collection from Charlotte Tilbury that this reminds me of. This is definitely a more unique shade to my collection that I have from Charlotte Tilbury, and I have a pretty big one, let me tell you. Beautiful. That's such an autumny shade as well, an autumnal mood, I feel like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use her Iconic Nude and then I'm going to put that lightest shade back on and see how we like it with a liner. So here is Cover Star with Iconic Nude Lip Liner. Definitely better with a liner. I'm not sure that's the perfect combo, to be honest, but it's the one that I brought down, so we're going with it. But I actually want to put Catwalking back on because that's my favourite. Okay, so let's get into some comparison swatches. We have Nude Romance, which is the one I wondered, yep, if it would be similar, and it is pretty similar. Obviously this is in her more luminous finish formula, so Yeah, pretty similar as I thought. Both have that kind of peachy nude vibe. Next up we have Wedding Bells from that same Love collection. Pretty similar actually to this one. That was Supermodel. Then from Lunar New Year we have Rose Wish. Pretty different to everything, to be honest. Lunar New Year again, and this is Sweet Blossom again. Completely different to any of those. Next we have Dance Floor Princess. Much lighter and pinker than the new ones. JK Magic, lighter and pinker again. Karina's Star, one of my faves. Much more of a sort of peachy orange tone there. In Love with Olivia, pinker again. Angel Alessandra, kind of in the same vibe, but yeah, as the Star, this first one, but again, it's got the shinier formula and it's pinker again. I'm going to do Glowing Gen here just to be a pain because I want to see, yep, so let me swatch that better. So yeah, Glowing Gen is quite similar to Supermodel. Obviously it's a bit darker and just the shininess it has to it because it is the kissing formula makes it, I think, appear a bit richer, but they are decently similar. And for giggles, let's do Pillow Talk because at least we all know, I'm sure, what we're dealing with when it comes to Pillow Talk. Not a million miles away, hang on. I put Pillow Talk here as well because I wanted to see if it was similar to that Supermodel shade as well, but no, it's not. And lastly, we have Bitch Perfect, which is a kind of lighter peachy, but again, it's kind of, yeah, quite different. So next I'm going to compare the contour, the bronzing / sculpting shades to shades that I have in similar palettes. So I'm going to swatch both of these first. Get a decent swatch of these so we can see comparison. That's better. Good old heavy swatch. That one, as you can see, it is light. That's a very well loved, used and abused Glowgasm palette, and the shade is Lovegasm. This was the deeper of the two palettes that were released from that collection. So you can see much warmer, much more of a bronzer versus these sculpting shades. Then we've got the two Look of Love in a palette, more recently released sort of full face and eye palettes. We'll do the deeper bronzer and the lighter palette bronzer. So still definitely bronzing shades, but as you can see, the lighter palette much too light for me. These are quite similar though, which is interesting, but yeah, not really similar to these, much warmer again. And last up, my Charlotte Tilbury bronzer in the shade Tan. These are kind of, you know, similarly close, but none of them really are close to the sculpting. As you can see, these clearly are sculpting shades as opposed to these that are all bronzers. So next, let's have a look at this blush shade from the new palette. Gorgeous, blew me away. Very pure peachy colour, I would say. The two blushes out of the Lovegasm palette. Much shimmerier, these two, than the blush in the new palette. I'd say this is much more of a blush than these ones, which are kind of highlighting blushes or even blush toppers. They're so shimmery. This one's definitely a lot less shimmer in it than these two. And then these two palettes again, we've got the lighter palette blush and the deeper one. So then maybe the lighter blush is kind of in the same ballpark shade-wise. These are actually both quite matte, whereas this definitely has a bit of a glow or sheen to it. It's not really that similar again. So finally, let's have a look at this gorgeous highlight. Highlight from the Lovegasm palette. Interesting, they're kind of similar, but the Lovegasm palette is definitely deeper and it just seems a lot more opaque, whereas I think it's more natural, the new one. Highlight from the deeper Love palette, Look of Love palette, and the lighter Look of Love palette. These look quite different. So this is the deeper, much darker, and the lighter, much lighter. And then we've got the Hollywood Superstar highlight, one of my faves. Do this one here so we can see it close to the new one. There they are all together. So this is the Superstar. As you can see, it's much more sheeny, much more glowing than the one in the new palette, which is much more subtle. Closest probably to the original Nudegasm, but definitely differences. Okay, so that is everything I have to show you about this collection. And what are my thoughts? This face palette, oh, I love it. It might be my favourite ever. It might be my favourite ever face palette from Charlotte Tilbury. I just think it's gorgeous. This is exactly what I like to travel with, and this blush really surprised me. I really didn't think, I don't know if I didn't think it was going to be as pretty on the cheeks, or whether I thought it wouldn't show on me, or whether I just thought it was going to be too metallic. I thought it was going to be like the Nudegasm palettes, where these were very shimmery and more blush toppery than they are blushes, and I thought it was going to be along those same lines, but it's just perfect for me. It is glowy and luminous, but it's like perfect for me. I think on the skin when it's buffed in, it's just glowy goddess gorgeousness, and I love it. I think these shades work beautifully on the eye. This one is definitely too light for me to get a lot of use out of. Can't use it on my face, as you saw, but on my eyes it serves a purpose, so I'll get use out of it, and I'm happy that I can use 3 of the shades. Like I said, if you have a deeper skin tone, you may only use these 2. Maybe you'd use some of these shades on the eye. If you're fair, you'll definitely be able to use this shade. I think the highlight may be too deep, but you could use, again, you could use that on the eyes, as well as this would be beautiful on fairer skin. And this one, again, if it's too deep, it can be used on the eyes. So I definitely think it's more versatile than perhaps it first appears, if you consider using it on the eyes as well as on the cheeks. Lip shade wise, I'm actually really surprised that I didn't have more shades that were closer or even dupes of these colours. I actually found a lot of the lipsticks that I already own from Charlotte Tilbury ran a lot pinker than these, are a lot more browny. Typically, there's obviously that one shade that's quite berry tone, the Supermodel shade, which is that more berry tone. It's kind of more similar to those that I already have from Charlotte. I think that Cover Star is too light for me. That one's going to either be used with a liner, or if you're fair, then that one would be a much better shade for you than me. Catwalking is definitely my favourite. I think it's stunning, it's gorgeous, it's definitely my type of shade, absolutely beautiful. And yeah, actually I'm pleasantly surprised that these were a little bit more different than I thought to what I already had. Formula wise, I think people will much prefer this new palette to the Nudegasm formula. This is much more of an easier formula. I didn't feel like I needed a specific brush. I didn't have to work very hard, and it also was not so pigmented that I struggled and had to blend a lot or be very careful. It's very easy going, very beginner friendly, I feel. So formula wise, I think people are going to love this one a lot more, and I think the packaging is just divine. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye.